I'm here with Ross Kimbarovsky, who is the principal at Crowdspring, and glad to chat with you here at South by Southwest. Thanks for your time.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Ben.
Yeah, I'm a fan of crowdsourcing, and you're one of the leaders. I want to talk to you a little bit about what it is. So first off, tell us a little bit about what you do, the platform you're building.
So we're a marketplace for creative services. We have a community of 54,000 designers and writers. Come from 170 different countries, and they help small businesses predominantly around the world with graphic design, industrial design, and writing, copywriting. Unlike traditional marketplaces, however, it's based on crowdsourcing, and instead of picking from proposals, you pick from actual designs or written copy to your specification. So a small business that needs a logo or a marketing brochure done can post a brief, set their own price, and designers or writers will submit actual work for that business to pick from.
Now, one of the coolest projects I saw, LG, I think, is doing some cell phone design through your service, so actually designing a handset that could potentially go to market.
Yes, so we had a competition last year. That was their second time they ran that competition. Actually, Monday, the 15th of March, is the next version of it on Crowdspring with $83,000 in awards. So it's a challenge for graphic and industrial designers.
But there is some controversy in the ad industry. They think that you may be evil. I'm throwing that out there at you, but but the idea that you're disintermediating the old agency model by introducing more efficiency in getting design work done or content created. How do you respond to some of the controversy around that in the ad industry?
Well, we don't see ourselves competing with agencies. Agencies provide value that we cannot provide, and a lot of that revolves around strategy and execution of that strategy. And that's not something that within our model is available, and it would be difficult to crowdsource strategy and execution.
What are the other areas where crowdsourcing is starting to evolve into? Is it engineering? Is it where else is this going?
Well, I think you're seeing lots of examples. So Innocentive, which has been around for a long time, was started by Eli Lilly when they tried to solve an internal R&D problem, engineering problem. And so you have good examples of crowdsourcing in that area of companies that have chemical or physics problems, and they can't solve it internally, and they rely on outside scientists or lay people to actually provide solutions. You see examples of the Netflix Prize, where Netflix wanted to find a way to better its own recommendation engine. You see Wikipedia, which is a good example, where you have a group of people who are providing content and generating a world encyclopedia in many different languages. And so I think you see in a lot of different industries and fields, when you have a way to create more efficiencies and at the same time let creative people participate, because one of the fundamental truths that the internet has introduced is that the hundreds of thousands, millions of people that have wanted to participate and create now have an opportunity to create. So the crowdsourcing platforms that have been set up have provided an outlet for that opportunity.
Now you're mentioning this idea of platforms, so Wikipedia is a great example. Wikipedia kind of crushed Encyclopedia Britannica. It's become like the platform for knowledge online. Do you see a shakeout? Do you see that eventually in every category there will be one or two leaders who build really the predominant platforms? Is that where this is going to go?
It's hard to say, because at the moment it's still a very young industry. So in any particular field, even if you look at Wikipedia, if you think of it as an encyclopedia that compares against Encyclopedia Britannica, then yes, in essence, Wikipedia has made it very difficult for the old-time publishers of books who sold encyclopedias. But you and I have lots of sources we reference for information other than Wikipedia.
So is there an opportunity inside businesses to use crowdsourcing tools to get more input from employees?
We think there is, and we've actually worked with some agencies that have tried this in posting projects on Crowdspring. So we built, after about 6 months, when we launched back in 2008, a pro platform that gave granular user control, privacy, non-disclosure agreements for clients that wanted to protect what they were doing. And some clients have used that to crowdsource internally, because part of the challenge is if you have 10,000 employees around the world, you need tools to be able to leverage the ideas from all those employees. And in part, what you see companies like Dell doing with IdeaStorm is building tools to try to figure out a way to leverage crowdsourcing. So what companies haven't done yet, but they're starting to, is leverage these tools for internal crowdsourcing.
So if you left this and became CMO of a major company tomorrow, and you heard about crowdsourcing and you wanted to try it, what would you do first? How do you evaluate a solution? How do you plug into this?
So one of the first things I would do is I would ask whatever vendors I was using, media companies, agencies, to post projects on platforms. So if I'm looking at video, if I'm looking at graphic design, to post projects for me for very specific and isolated examples. It may not be for my main logo. It may be for redesign of a packaging, so that I could experiment to understand how I can leverage that resource through my agency. But I would also post projects directly, and we're seeing that. So one of the things that surprised us the most over the last year, we're seeing Fortune 500 companies post projects on Crowdspring directly. They're posting some through their agencies and some directly.
What has been your biggest surprise from when you started and what you thought would happen? What has surprised you as this has sort of unfolded?
So when we started back in 2008, we thought that we would have a widespread community of creatives, and that's turned out to be true. We have creatives from 170 countries. We didn't think we would have as big a community of buyers. We thought that most of our buyers would come from the US, and that we would have some other countries. And we have been surprised that 72 countries are represented in our pool of buyers. And that's been interesting because it means that regardless of culture, regardless of the kinds of environments they have in those countries, small businesses around the world have the same common need, and that is to find a way to buy creative services at a price that they can control and in a way that they could leverage better than traditionally what they have had to do. As you know, for a lot of small businesses, they haven't had kind of outlets in the past that their bigger and bigger competitors have had. They don't have agencies, they don't have CMOs on staff, they may not have much marketing expertise. And so we're seeing this as a common problem. We didn't realize it would be.
So I guess the last question I have is, how do you measure success? If a marketing executive is considering this, by what criteria should they measure whether or not this is going to work?
Well, it's interesting because one of the things we're finding is that some companies are looking for the end product, so a logo or a website, microsite, a marketing brochure. Some companies are looking for experience, and by that I mean they're leveraging our model in a way that broadcasts the message. And I'll give you one example. Crispin Porter Bogusky posted a project last year for the Brammo electric motorcycle company. And they knew that they would have a lot of backlash. Here's the agency of the year coming to a crowdsourcing site, and we've been in the news quite a lot in the speculative work debate. They knew that they would get that backlash, but their goal was to try to get people to talk about their client, Brammo. Well, one of the opportunities in the crowdsourcing arena is for the brands and the agencies to go directly to the consumers and have the consumers create the advertising or the branding, because ultimately this is what they're going to see on the shelves. This is the branding that they're going to relate when they look at shoes or whatever products they're buying. And so this shortcuts that process and really creates this ideation of ideas. So back to the conversation when we started, agencies are great at executing strategy, but ideation is tough. Creating lots of ideas becomes more complicated. And that's, I think, how most people are leveraging and will continue to leverage crowdsourcing.
So if there was one question that's puzzling you as you look ahead, I mean, what is the one question out there for you that you're trying to solve for the next step for crowdsourcing?
So for us, it's about how we can better leverage more sophisticated kinds of crowdsourcing products. So we moved into web design for graphic design, into industrial design when we had the LG project, 3 weeks ago into copywriting, and we plan to move into other areas like video. And part of the challenge for us is how do we offer more sophisticated services to these small businesses that continue to lack access to these services within a platform that does have some limitations. We have to work with a pretty disparate community of people all over the world. They come from different backgrounds and experiences. And so for us, the challenge is what kinds of services can we provide that work within our model, and what kinds of services really can't work as effectively.
Well, Ross, I appreciate your time. Crowdspring.com, great service, and hope you don't destroy the ad industry.
That's not our goal.
All right.
We love the ad industry.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.